we're going to dive in and kind of come in very hot here because OpenAI is planning for AGI. So OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, DALL-E 2, GPT-3, just published a bombshell of a blog post titled, quote, "Planning for AGI and Beyond." So here AGI means artificial general intelligence, or AI systems that are smarter than humans at many different tasks, not just a narrow task. So OpenAI says that AGI, quote, "has the potential to give everyone incredible new capabilities. We can imagine a world where all of us have access to help with almost any cognitive task, providing a great force multiplier for human ingenuity and creativity." But OpenAI also notes the serious risks of misusing such a hyper intelligent system. They then outline some short and long term principles to, quote, "carefully steward AGI into existence." Now, this is a really, really important announcement, Paul. I want to ask you, why are they making this and why now?
It appears that they think they're making progress toward AGI. I mean, I think that's the largest takeaway here. And they've implied this before. That is their mission, as you said, is to, benefit humanity with AGI. So they have believed since the beginning that this was possible. And they seem to think that they're making progress. Now, so they put this out on Friday, the 24th, was it, I guess? 25th? Yeah, 24th. Sam then tweeted, I think the next day, a new version of Moore's Law that could start soon. The amount of intelligence in the universe doubles every 18 months. Uh, so I think it's one, they have a very specific point of view on this. I think that's really important for everyone to understand. They see things that many of us don't see. Most of us don't see. There are certainly people in other AI research labs that are making similar progress and may or may not believe that they're also making progress toward AGI. Um, the problem there's a lot of problems with this post, but the big thing that jumps out to me for a moment is they don't really define AGI. So, I mean, they give a definition, but it differs from their other definitions they've previously given. And so, I had made a note that there was a sort of glaring gap here with what they're saying, and that is that they don't really state what it is or how we're going to know when we're going to get there. Like, what are the measurements with which we're actually tracking against? Because AGI is a very vague, the definitions I've seen are very vague. So just OpenAI themselves, they say OpenAI's mission is to ensure that AGI, by which we mean highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically viable work. So that's the one they say on their website, which is very vague. It's very general in its definition. Then in this post, they say AI systems that are generally smarter than humans. Those are very different things. And so that to me right up front is the biggest issue here is we're throwing up these red flags and creating maybe some unnecessary fear. Uh, a lot of AI researchers think that it's just uh, them like bluster, like it's not real stuff. Like they aren't actually making progress toward AGI, and this is unnecessary to create this kind of fear around it. So my big thing is whether we agree on AGI, we're making a path toward it or not, or that it is even possible. We need clear definitions and ways to measure progress toward it. Because one of the key takeaways is how do we they want to have guardrails to prevent it from going bad. Well, if we don't know what it is or how we're going to know when we get to it, how do we avoid accidentally reaching it before taking the necessary steps to prevent it? So my biggest problem with this post is it was um, I understand if they think it's important to put it out there, like that's fine. But there was lots of really vague statements that seem very extreme without much clarity around anything. Like there was very little you could do reading this and say, well, okay, what can I do to help? It's not. It's almost like a, hey, trust us. We're building it. We're making progress. You're probably not going to know when we're getting anywhere, but we think we should involve a bunch of people to help figure this out. It's just that was my challenge. So it might help to go through a few of these points, because I think the average marketer, business leader who might listen to our podcast could go read this post and just be like, I don't understand anything they're saying. So I think it might be helpful to unpack a few of these key points from it. And maybe, Mike, if you have any context, like, feel free to jump in here. So it starts off with AGI has the potential to give everyone incredible new capabilities. We can imagine a world where all of us have access to help with almost any cognitive task, providing a great force multiplier for human ingenuity and creativity. Sounds amazing. Like, just on the surface, sounds great. Almost any cognitive task is a really big market and lots of applications. As we create successfully more powerful systems, we want to deploy them and gain experience with operating them in the real world. We believe this is the best way to carefully steward AGI into existence. A gradual transition to a world with AGI is better than a sudden one. We expect powerful AI to make the rate of progress in the world much faster, and we think it's better to adjust to this incrementally. So there's sometimes in the post where they actually talk about it's an inevitability, like, hey, we're going to get there and we're going to actually make it happen. And then there's other times where they talk about it's almost like something we don't want to have happen, and yet that's what they're doing, is bringing it into existence. Um, I'll stop here and say, as we're thinking about this, it's almost helpful to throw the AGI part out of this. It's kind of a weird idea, but don't, because the top AI researchers can't agree. We're not going to agree. Like, is AGI possible? I have no idea if AGI is possible. I don't work in these research labs. Like, we just follow what they're saying and we go read the research papers and it's like, try and synthesize it. So I have no idea if AGI is a year away or 100 years away, or if it's never going to happen. But what we know is going to happen is more advanced AI systems live in the research labs right now, and they will find their way into society and business in the very near future. So let's look at the remaining points we're going to go through here under the lens of more advanced AI systems that the public hasn't previously seen, that they know exist, and that we're probably not ready for. So let's just assume we're talking about advanced AI systems. Then we don't have to have this debate about is AGI possible or not, because I don't think any of the AI researchers who debate around AGI would disagree that there are more advanced AI systems that haven't been released yet. Okay. So a gradual transition of these more advanced AI systems gives people, policymakers, and institutions time to understand what's happening, personally experience the benefits and downsides, adapt the economy, and put regulation in place. Those are important things. And I think those are very critical things to be discussing. There's nothing concrete in here about how any of that is happening. I would love to see that built out. Then we go on. Generally speaking, we think more usage of AI in the world will lead to good, and we want to promote it by putting models in our API, open sourcing them, etc. We believe that democratized access will also lead to more and better research, decentralized power, more benefits, and a broader set of people contributing new ideas. In other words, we're going to keep putting this stuff out there for good or bad. There's going to be a lot of downsides, but we're going to keep doing it. As our systems get closer to AGI, we are becoming increasingly cautious with the creation and deployment of our models. Our decisions will require much more caution than society usually applies. I think we talked about this one before, but basically same premise. At some point, the balance between the upsides and the downsides of deployments could shift our thinking. So basically, if things get worse and we get more powerful systems, we may pull back on this. We think it's important that society agree on extremely wide bounds of how AI can be used, but within those bounds, individual users have a lot of discretion. This goes back to what we talked about last week, I think, where they're going to have these personalized systems. They're going to do things you probably don't agree with, that a lot of humans probably think are bad, but they're going to default to letting people kind of figure this out on their own. This next one is the one that worries me a lot. So the default setting of our products will likely be quite constrained, but we plan to make it easy for users to change the behavior of the AI they're using. We believe in empowering individuals to make their own decisions, and the inherent power of diversity ideas. So this is where I started thinking about, if they have these more advanced AI systems and they're restraining them from release, how is this any different than the people that left Google in 2017, 18, 19, because they wouldn't release the language models they had? So you have these AI researchers who work on these really advanced systems, and then they sit in research labs for years because the barriers to release them. So what's stopping OpenAI employees who work on this stuff and know what's possible from saying, yeah, I don't agree with OpenAI anymore. I don't think OpenAI knows what they're doing in terms of what's best for society. I'm going to leave OpenAI and go advance AGI on my own, or do a startup and advance AGI because I think it's more important. So we have this like this tiered system of the technology companies making the decisions, and then the individuals within those companies, whether or not they agree with the decisions being made. So this is the one that actually started unsettling me, is that you could have these researchers who say, I'm out. I'm done with OpenAI. They're being too cautious now. They got too big. They're too worried about government regulations and all these other things. I'm going to leave and go do my own AGI project. And that's absolutely what's going to happen. Like you can just foresee that right now. That we'll have these research papers over the coming years about AGI, and then they're just going to leave and go do their thing. Couple other quick notes. They hope the global conversation about three key questions: how to govern these systems, how to fairly distribute the benefits, and how to fairly share access. Again, they just basically say we're going to work on these things. They don't get into how they're going to ensure these things. They also talk about the idea of independent audits. My question is, from whom? Like, who would even do these audits? Is it auditing each other? Like the research labs auditing each other? Who would even have the knowledge to do these audits? So a lot of this depends on these like guardrails and things that seem really, really hard to put in place. And then it kind of wraps with a couple of notes around the first AGI will just be a point along the continuum of intelligence. It's like, oh, geez, like now we're just talking about these almost intentionally throwing things out that are really hard for the average person to comprehend, and then successfully transitioning the world with super intelligence is perhaps the most important and hopeful and scary project in human history. So it was a lot. I mean, honestly, when I read this on Friday, I was like, oh my gosh, like I did not plan to end my week trying to process this post. Um, but I do think they're a very impactful company. There's no two ways around that. They're going to be a very influential company on marketing business in human history. And they think they're making very significant progress toward much more advanced systems, which they're going to call AGI. And that matters. What they're doing matters, why they're doing it matters. Um, and it's an important thing that we talk about it as this industry and a society.
So, reading between the lines here, obviously we can disagree with the way they've kind of gone about this, but the fact that they're doing it, does this mean some type of breakthrough is imminent when it comes to, let's toss out AGI, let's just say advanced artificial intelligence coming down the line?
It it sure seems that way. I mean, everything we're seeing, not just from them, but from Meta, which we'll talk about their new language model, Stability AI CEO, everybody is increasingly talking about some stuff coming out in the near term. And we were talking about this, in the fall and end of 2022, that things were building up. I think it's pretty safe to assume that in the coming months, there's going to be some advancements in AI that are going to be mind blowing. Whether we think they're actually a path to AGI or not, I don't think it really matters at this point. I think the thing we have to prepare for is that there are going to be advancements, specifically in generative AI. I mean, that's the area we're focusing on right now: images, videos, audio, language, that businesses, marketers, governments are not prepared for. And uh, that's, I think, the most important takeaway here is that we have to be prepared for this kind of rapid, perpetual change that's about to occur as these systems get more intelligent and more powerful.